everybody. Thanks for coming and checking out the channel with Green Party USA. So excited to be here. We've got amazing guests, and I'm here guest hosting and leading the conversation tonight. So my name is Franca Muller. I am a teacher in Baltimore City. We've got some exciting stuff going on because our school district is trying to reopen, but we and students and parents say no. So been really exciting things going on here in Baltimore. And I also ran for office here in Baltimore for City Council District 12. And we have some amazing people with us tonight. We have Jessica. Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Good. It's so nice to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here. And also Jake Tonkel. Hey, Jake. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you again, too. This is exciting.
Yeah, it's great to see you and it not be a fundraiser or a planning meeting.
It's a much more relaxing experience not having to try and pull money out of people.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys so much for being willing to be a part of this conversation where we're going to be talking about what it means to run as a Green and what you need to know to run for local office. So Jessica, do you mind kicking off? Introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us about you and why you decided to run for office the first time that you did so.
So my name's Jessica Clayton. I'm from Brick, New Jersey. I ran for school board 4 years ago, actually, and won. And that was great. It was very exciting. And this year I was up for re-election. And I did win, but then we had a recount. And in the recount, I lost by 14 votes. So maybe I'll run again next year. I originally started to run because I ran a Girl Scouts. I was an assistant for a Girl Scouts troop. And the parents and the kids kept complaining because in our district, teachers use those red light, yellow light, green light behavior charts on the walls, and they were using their red light students were losing recess. And I am a family child care provider, and I believe in outdoor education, and I believe in play. And since the school day is so regimented and doesn't have a lot of free time or play, recess is a really important, vital part of the day. And I think that the kids who end up on the red light on the chart need recess more than everyone else. So I had originally run to try and get administrators to ban those red light charts and to stop the removal of recess as a punishment. So I was able to, along with the state officials, which actually the state made it illegal, which really helped me out on my local district, we no longer can take recess away as a punishment unless they're using the time to do some like remediation work to teach the kids about, to improve their behavior. So hopefully that means most kids are not going to lose recess anymore.
Congratulations. What an awesome win. That's super important. But excellent. Well, thank you so much. And so really exciting. So coming to us from Brick, New Jersey, and also a fellow Jersey girl. So excited to be able to talk Jersey Devil, all that good stuff with you, Jessica. And Jake, so tell us a little bit about yourself and what made you decide to run for office this year?
Yeah, again, great to see you, Franca. This is, 3 months away from the November election. I ran for San Jose City Council. So I'm here in San Jose, California. I ran for the District 6 seat and unfortunately didn't win. We came away with about 46% of the vote. Running against an incumbent. So did very well for my first time running for office and was super excited by the team we were able to put together. Mostly, we came together and decided to run this campaign because the incumbent for my seat was not taking our unhoused and affordable housing crises seriously, really not necessarily looking at policing in a progressive way, and for the most part, really kind of a conservative stronghold on the city of San Jose, which struggles a lot, regardless of what district you're in. And so we felt there was a need for a challenge. I mean, historically here, most incumbents win over and over again for the city of San Jose, and it deters good progressive people from running. So we wanted to run a campaign that could highlight the fact that it doesn't matter if you hit the ground running and do your homework, and you're going to make a difference for the city.
So we all had to run our races in the middle of a global pandemic.
Are you going to tell people about your race real quick?
Sure. Are you going to interview me, Jake?
Just making sure we're all on the same page.
So I did also run. So I ran in Baltimore's 12th District Council seat. I am a teacher here in Baltimore City. This is year 11. And I love teaching. It is really exciting to be able to do, and also to do what I have gotten to do and help out with for the last several years, which is also support the organizing of young people and students and making sure that they have a space to be able to be critical about their world, but also their school and the classroom. And so I really enjoyed being able to do that. But something that just really began to impact me a lot was that, unfortunately, it's no surprise that Baltimore experiences a great deal of violence that takes place in our city because of historic underfunding of our education, because of historic underfunding of Black and Brown communities. And so, when we look at redlining maps from the 1930s and overlay that where we see violent crime happening in the city, and also crime that takes place through lack of investment into opportunities for healthy food, opportunities to access the internet. Even now we're talking about vaccines and being safe, right? Even if you're trying to get a flu shot, the amount of places that you can go to be able to get a flu shot is severely diminished if you live in a Black and Brown community in Baltimore, as opposed to what we call in Baltimore City, the white L, thanks to Dr. Lawrence Brown, an incredible academic that we have in our city. And so I felt that as a teacher, I needed to make sure that someone represented this seat that was going to be willing to fight on behalf of the lives of our students and our residents, and that unfortunately we didn't have that kind of representation happening. And so it was a really exciting race. We were able to raise over $130,000 in just over 100 days. Thanks. Yeah. And we had more donors than anyone else who had ran in that cycle for us, for city council, for mayor. You had to start look at gubernatorial campaigns and congressional campaigns to have the kind of number of donor base that we did. And so we were really excited to be able to build that out. Didn't quite get the numbers that Jake got or Jessica, but we got about a third of the votes. And so a little over a third of the votes in Baltimore City. And that was the highest amount of votes for a non-Democratic Party candidate in 60 years in Baltimore. So Green Party is now the second party in Baltimore City, not the Republican Party.
Congratulations.
It's a good move. Really exciting, a fun experience, but something that we had to go through, which I'm sure you guys did too, was trying to figure out what it means to run in a pandemic. And what I'd love to hear is, what was something that perhaps was able to give birth to some innovation and some new strategies for running because of the fact that you were running in this global pandemic. So maybe, were there any silver linings or things that you were able to discover because you were forced into this sort of corner because of the pandemic? So Jake, do you want to start off?
Sure. The big takeaway for me was the excitement of actually getting to do the constituent outreach and education work that I had wanted to do, hoping to get elected. Knowing that you had to change your strategy from going door to door to kind of this online presence, get out the word about upcoming votes for city council and what they meant for our community. I got to do a lot of interviews, a lot of educational opportunities to go on, and whether it was talk with Franca or other people and discuss the details of policy that were happening in our community, and able to push those out in a more effective way. Right? I think a lot of, at least local campaigns, you can kind of do that in a 1 to 2 minute segment when you go to door and talk to somebody. You don't get to have that in-depth discussion. You don't get to drive people to community engagement opportunities en masse. And so that was really the most exciting piece for me. It was making that transition from the traditional grassroots candidate work to kind of more of a digital, but still more inclusive space to get the entire community involved in what policy I was talking about.
Excellent. And Jessica, what were some of the things that came out of your approach to having to run your race in the middle of, the COVID pandemic?
So the first time I ran, they didn't have a debate, but in subsequent years, they did try and organize an in-person debate for school board candidates. However, I think in every single year after me, they weren't able to get a date solidified because they were trying to organize an in-person event after school, and they couldn't get one where everyone could participate. But the pandemic allowed us to do a virtual debate, or I think they called it a candidate forum, actually. But it was organized like a debate, except you couldn't rebut. So you only had one chance to answer your question. But it was a really exciting and nerve-wracking, but really fun experience to really see how candidates could respond. I mean, school board candidates, usually we get our information out through interviews. We usually get interviewed by the local paper, the slightly bigger paper that goes to the region, and door to door, which I didn't really get to do. I didn't feel comfortable. I run a daycare and I'm trying to protect my family, so I didn't do that this year, which I think was part of the reason why I didn't get those last 14 votes. But the debate was great, and I could share it on the local message boards for from my town community pages. And so everyone got to hear all of our voices in a much more in-depth way. We did an hour and a half long debate. And, anyone could watch it afterwards at any time. It wasn't like they had to show up at the school board meetings in order to see it in person.
Yeah, right. I think that's something that was really special and kind of connects with what Jake said, is that it enabled you to have this platform to really discuss with people. It's a lot of where politics was happening was digitally, and able to really have these in-depth conversations that maybe you don't always get the chance to do. So what is something that you wish you knew, or maybe some kind of helpful advice that you wish you had gotten before you first started to run? So if you could go back to the moment before you were about to announce this campaign and whisper some, important, as we say in Spanish, sabiduría, some important knowledge, what would that be? What would you share with your young, impressionable self before you embarked on running that maybe would have helped you throughout the process? And that might be something that is helpful for other folks that are considering runs in their own local seats across the USA. So Jessica, do you mind kicking us off? What's something that you think, some advice that you would give your pre-electoral self?
Okay, so this is really important. Facebook came up with some new important rules. You had to have an administrator for your page established 9 months in February. Soon, guys, if you're thinking about running, before November. You had to get it done by February. Now, school board candidates, we don't usually make our announcement that we're running until July, which means that we couldn't do Facebook sponsored posts because we didn't have this administrator set up on our Facebook pages. So if you're thinking about running in November, and you set up your Facebook page now, you don't have to publish it, but you have to set it up and set up the administrator, because I wasn't able to push any social media sponsored posts, which I think also might have helped my campaign, because I didn't have this administrator set up on the page in advance.
Yeah, those are those little tips that you just wish you know. And I cannot, if I could get my social media communications director, Andrew, here, I'm sure he would commiserate a lot with you about the many things that really hurt us because of Facebook. But yeah, you really have to figure out all those little nitty-gritty things, and they take time. You have to wait a week and a half or 10 days to be sent some special code, all these kinds of things.
In the physical mail, the snail mail. But Facebook, it makes you get a snail mail, receive a snail mail code.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, it's crazy. And yeah, you don't know about that. So no, do not procrastinate with some of those little elements because it's not going to be good. So Jake, what about you? What tidbits, what advice would you have given yourself pre-run that would have maybe helped you, either with the campaign or, with your sanity? What's some advice you'd give yourself?
Sanity one first. Make sure you surround yourself with good people. Very fortunate, friends and family were extremely supportive. If it turns out for whatever reason your friends or family are not super supportive, don't spend a lot of time chatting with them about how the race is going. Stay focused with your core group and get out there and talk to people. And that, transitions over to the second piece of advice. Groundwork, what you can do with a few core volunteers makes a huge difference. I mean, not only do volunteers bring volunteers, like when you take someone that kind of was involved and you make them a super volunteer, they may get 2 or more people to come help afterwards. But a lot of these local races can be very winnable with 5 or 6 really dedicated people, and you don't need a whole lot else after that. If you can find a core group of folks that are willing to put in the work and are willing to learn, whether it's how to handle Facebook or Twitter or social media, or we used like 9 or 10 new programs for digital design or for Zoom and live streaming that I had never used before. As long as you're willing to learn, you get through that stuff, and it makes a big difference. So surround yourself with a core group of good people that are willing to make mistakes, but are willing to try new things and kind of have fun in the process.
Awesome. Yeah, I have to absolutely agree with that. And to really take care of those folks that are really willing to be on that journey with you. The folks that are volunteering with you and helping out with the campaign, that are working on your campaign and are putting insane hours as well. They are dedicating so much of themselves. So to really make sure that you always take time to honor and take care of your people. That's something that is incredibly, incredibly important. To make sure that you look out for them, but to also for yourself. I'll just drop something in that. For me, I am one of those people that if I have a lot going on, I just won't eat. Like if I have too many meetings and stuff, like it's just, I just forget about it and it doesn't happen. And by the end of the campaign, there was like a little food train keeping me fed, which was just absolutely wonderful. But don't feel afraid to ask for help. There are people in your life that love you and want you to be happy. And maybe maybe that person isn't going to take care of you by knocking on doors. That might not be their thing, or doing call time. But maybe their way is that they want to like make you a meal because they care and they want to make sure that you're, drinking water and eating. So make sure you let people in. People are going to be able to help you and share their love with you in different ways. So, but you have to be willing to be open about the moments that you need help. And I think a lot of the times people that have that initiative to run are often people that really want to get things done their way and do things themselves. And there's just too much work on a campaign for you to carry that load all by yourself. You have to learn how to trust the people around you and really make sure that like when you need help, you ask for it, because if you're not able to do all the responsibilities that you need to do, you're not just hurting yourself, you're hurting the campaign and the vision of the thing that you are building and that people are working really, really hard on. But yeah, thank you so much, you guys, for sharing that. So speaking of some of this more kind of like nitty gritty, how to run kind of information, I wanted to take a moment to talk about software and different programs that you guys use. What were some of the things that you used that you felt like, oh, this was really helpful for keeping my campaign organized, for sending out emails, that you feel was just super beneficial for the campaign? And Jake, do you mind kicking this one off?
No, of course. The big one, get a voter database software, whether it's VAN or I think here in California, at least, most people use PDI, Political Data Inc. This is saves you a bunch of time from having to get a large Excel document from your county's registrar of voters and trying to parse together an electoral strategy of who you're going to outreach to and when. it's really the core software that I think you need to run a campaign. Nation Builder, I think, can do some of it too, but takes a little bit more, upfront work. If you know you're going to run in 2022 and you're not going to announce till July of 2022, then you've got some time to start to work on some of that back end stuff now. Google Docs worked fine for organizing campaign documents and staff. And then Canva was just really, really helpful. For those of you who don't know, it's a graphic design program, makes, creating flyers and social media posts super easy, makes them look clean and more professional. And I think that's something that really is important when you're running your first campaign. There's room to learn as always, and no one's going to knock you if your first campaign had, printer paper type advertisements like you made them with Microsoft Word back when they had clip art. But it will go a long way if things look a deal more professional.
So I don't have anything to add to that. I also used Canva, Nation Builder, and Google Docs. So those are all great programs.
Yeah, what did you like about Nation Builder? We also transitioned to Nation Builder about a third of the way into our campaign, and it was like a game changer. So why did you like Nation Builder? I feel like, by the way, we're not getting like any this
no
is not sponsored or anything. Yeah.
Right.
This is really just a frank conversation of what helped.
I think
Filter is not sponsoring this conversation.
No. I think it was good because you could see who donated and you could reach back out to them and tell them how you were doing. I mean, it's so simple as that, to see people who are what they, there are different things that people are willing to give. Some people are willing to give time. Some people are willing to give food, but some people are willing to give like a little money. And sometimes that's an easier thing to give than time and food. Just a little donation one time, and then you can reach that back out to them and say, hey, thank you so much for your donation earlier in the campaign. I'm at the last push. Can you give me a little extra so I can push out these last ads? That can be really helpful. I do say that one of the things that my competitors did was they pushed a mailer through. I think mailers are really expensive, and I don't know how effective they were. But they were able to scramble enough money and to get that out there. At the end, I also like to do like a radio ad at the very end. Radio ads in Jersey are cheap for political ads, like in the week leading up to the election. So that's always at the end. I'm like, can you give me a little extra for a nice new radio ad right before we vote? And Nation Builder can get that list generated for you immediately.
Yeah, absolutely co-sign on Nation Builder. We used it to massively organize our volunteers. By the end of the campaign, we were knocking doors and doing call and text campaigns almost every single day of the week. And so when you have a ton of events and you have a lot of volunteers, it's a great way to keep everything organized. Also, for online fundraising, I use DonorBox. I think, Jake, you did as well.
Yep.
We can't access Act Blue because we're not Democrats, and so you have to find your alternatives. And I do think a popular one is setting something up through DonorBox. Is that what you use too, Jessica?
Just PayPal.
Yeah, DonorBox links up with PayPal, which is great. So that's really helpful. There were also some great folks on my team that we were doing some very distant and shielded in-person events. And one of the folks on our campaign created like a little app so that we could capture the people that we talked to in in-person events, which was really helpful. So it's always great to have savvy tech people involved on your campaign. Jake, did you have any you seem to be in an area fertile with people who have that kind of knowledge. So did you get to benefit from some great skills from either volunteers or campaign staff?
Absolutely benefited from some great skills. Nobody that built an app for us, but we did have people that were connected to a couple of apps that got us cheap texting and a couple other interesting avenues. Folks around here worked on things like Outreach Circle, where you can get your friends to download their contact information and cross-reference it to the voter database. So it'll show you which of your phone numbers in your phone are residents of the district you're trying to help volunteer for. So there's some creative things that we dabbled in, didn't get tons of experience on one way or another that are worth trying. But like I said at the beginning, feel free to make mistakes. Make sure you're surrounded with people that kind of want to try something new. That's how you have to run some of these breakout grassroots campaigns for sure.
So speaking at some of these breakout ideas, what were some, great advice that you could share on successful events, whether they were online or in person? But what are some advice you would give about having a successful event related to the campaign, whether it was for fundraising or otherwise? Who wants to take a stab at it? Yeah, go for it, Jake.
I'll jump in there. First, creativity, collaboration. Franca and I had an awesome online fundraiser where there were all kinds of different creative ways to get people incentives to donate. Our donor bases, for the most part, progressive campaigns that are people that just can give a few dollars here and there, and making sure you have that type of appreciation sent their way is really important. Definitely, larger donor networks, I think they understand that they're in the game of politics and they use their money to essentially move policy in the direction they want to move. And they don't necessarily need those same kind of community events and, the warmth and fun and energy that you have to bring to a grassroots campaign. So we put that into our online stuff, in person as well. My campaign started in July of 2019, so pre-pandemic, and we had some awesome in-person events where people would MC and we'd have music and guest speakers, and really made it events that people were interested in coming to, whether they gave or not, but also creating that open space. There are lots of ways to give to a campaign. Donating's not the only one. And so finding those fun events that drive people to potentially volunteer or to volunteer in more outside the box capacities, bring food, create stickers, all that kind of stuff can be well utilized and needs to happen for campaigns like.
And how about you, Jessica? What are some fun ideas that you guys did for either your virtual or in-person events?
So over the summer, I was able to get to the farm. So my town is smaller than both of your. So I mean, we have like 70,000 people. So I went to the farmers market, and I printed up business cards, and I passed them out. I talked to people who were at the farmers market, and I just said, "Hey, I'm running for board. Here's some information about my campaign." And then the business card had some highlights on it about what I wanted for the school district, and it also had the link to my website. Another cool thing is to print up those what are those little things you can scan with your phone, like a QR code? Is that what it's called? Thanks. So if you print up like a sheet of paper that has the QR code and people aren't comfortable taking things because pandemic and germs, especially in the beginning when we weren't sure about pamphlets, they could just scan it with their phone, and then it would pull up all the information, and it made people have it right at their hand, right in their phone, the thing that they always have with them. So that was nice. I think both of those things were effective for in person during a pandemic.
And stay memorable by giving them something they can hold on to from you. So all really important. So Jake, thank you so much for doing online events with me. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of performances, even in the online space, and running around and scavenger hunts. So it was really good. We also did like a drag brunch, talking about issues that are impacting our LGBTQ community, and also having fun and sharing love of drag. And in person, we were trying to think about how we could do events in the nature of the pandemic, and ended up really enjoying doing these bike caravans with live music. So had a friend that had a trailer, we suited it up, put a band on there, and we would roll through the district talking about issues and bringing music into the district, especially because Baltimore is a huge musical city, but a lot of that artwork and music has had to stop because of the pandemic. So it was really great to bring in a little bit of joy, have some fun, watch people dance, and be able to, at the same time, be able to talk about some of the issues that were affecting the campaign. So definitely, recommend taking, like Jake said, surround yourself with people that think out of the box so that you can really, tap into that creative energy that also makes us so special as Green candidates. So with that, I wanted to ask one last question, which is just, what are some final thoughts about people who are maybe starting to think about this idea of running? What are either, a question people should be asking themselves, or some advice you could give about someone who's on the fence trying to figure out if they want to run for their own local elected office? And Jessica, do you mind kicking that off? So either a question people should be asking themselves, or some advice for folks that are considering running locally.
Listen, I've loved running campaigns and I loved being on the board. I love doing the job, and I really encourage anyone who's politically minded and who is interested in fighting or using your voice to stand up for what you believe in to run. The only thing I would think about first is that do you have the time and to commit to doing the campaign, because it does take some of your personal time. I mean, you might have to carve out an hour a day or a couple hours on every weekend for, a year. So that's a lot of time. But I love it because it really does amplify your voice. Even when you don't win, you get to speak to reporters. You get a lot of credibility in whatever, I don't know about you guys, but my district, my superintendent, they all know who I am. They all listen to what I have to say, and they give me feedback on what we ran as our campaign points. I think that happens when you run for any different office position, that you amplify your voice. So I more than encourage you to do it, even if you have doubts, because it's really worthwhile.
And Jake, what's a question people should be asking themselves, or some advice you give to somebody who's kind of on the fence, they're thinking about it? What should they be considering?
I think Jessica's points are valid. If this is something you're interested in and excited about, definitely make sure that you put the full thought in to make sure that it happens. It does take a lot of time and a lot of energy, but I also want to reassure people there's not too many secrets in this. It's not so complex and challenging that you need expensive political consultants to do things right and to connect with people and to write good policy or a good platform. So if those are the hesitations, if you're sitting there thinking, I want to do this, but I don't really know how, don't let the I don't know how stop you. There's lots of people that are willing to help you get your feet, take those first steps, whatever you want to call it, to get the software, to get your treasurer account open. Those things, they may seem scary, but you'll get them done. So don't let that stuff stop you from running.
Absolutely. And I just want to close by saying just a message to especially the women who are listening in, and especially people of color, that a lot of times you confront this feeling saying, I didn't grow up thinking I was going to do elected office or be in one of these positions of power. I don't see myself in those positions of power. I didn't plan for it. I didn't study for that. That's not the experience I've had. And I think a lot of women and people of color second guess themselves for that reason. And so often it takes your community having to come to you and ask you to run. I'll say that with the many women, Latina, Black women, that I've talked to who are in elected office, and I say, hey, like, how did you decide to do it? And you're like, honestly, they say, honestly, it never really occurred to me until people started asking me to do it. And so I just think it's really important to trust yourself. If you feel like you really care about your community and you're a fighter for your community and you understand what's happening and you understand what needs to be changed, trust that knowledge, trust your experience. There's nothing more valuable than your lived experience and what you've gone through as a human being, and pulling that and bringing that experience towards elected office. And like Jessica says, even if you don't win the campaign, it is an opportunity for you to be able to share your voice and your story, because that story matters. And don't feel like it has to have been something you've been grooming yourself for your whole life. It can be something that you just feel like this is the moment and this is the time, and you're going to give it a try because you really want to be there for your community. So thank you guys so much for joining in on this conversation. Jake, so awesome to see you. And Jessica, I always love speaking with a fellow Jersey girl. So, and congratulations on your previous win. And we'll be there for the next one. But thank you guys so much for making the time to have this conversation and to really lift up this ability for folks to run for elected office. I think it's so important. This is how we're going to see the progressive changes that we want to see across the country, is by having incredible, progressive, inspiring people like the people who are listening in on this call, making that step and making the choice to run for office. So thank you all for being here tonight.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for emceeing or interviewing, whatever you want to call it. Good to see you, Franca.
Yes, thank you so much.